Hello all, this is your Bhavani sir. We are going to discuss day 15 of Mission YODHAN, that is my prelims test series 2023. The program has 4 slots for each day. In each slot we have divided the subject into micro level. In the slot 1 we have given you external sector and currency exchange rate and balance of payment issues. On slot 2 we have given you international trade and bodies of IMF. And slot 3 and 4 we have given you agriculture marketing and associated reforms and PDS system. Let us come to the first question. Consider the following statements with regard to International Monetary Fund. It was asked in the UPSC in the CDS exam in 2022 with respect to the support system provided by the IMF, that is extended fund facility. Today I am giving you few tasks for each of the questions. You have to learn immediately after the class or also while attempting the class. Here this is extended fund facility. I will give you the brief introduction about this, but you have to learn more. Extended fund facility is provided by the IMF to the countries which are suffering from balance of payment crisis. Okay? This was asked in CDS. Based on this, in recent Telangana State Public Service Commission, they have asked that IMF is providing a long-term project specific loans to the countries. This is absolutely a wrong statement. That is why we have taken the same statement that similar to development banks, IMF lends specific projects, lends for specific projects, which is a wrong option, wrong statement. So, first statement can be eliminated. It provides precautionary financing to countries. It is fine. It is fine. Yes, it also gives each of the countries certain caution that you have to maintain these balance of payment issues, otherwise you will suffer from this. Right. Next, all IMF loans carry a market based interest rate. Not all IMF loans carry this market based interest rate, because IMF loans usually have 2 types, that is market based interest rate based on concessional terms, and second thing is concessional financial support. Currently at present IMF is providing 0 interest rate when it wants to provide a loan to the country on concessional terms. So, the third statement which is given here is also incorrect. Only second statement is correct and option C is true here with respect to first question. And second question, special drawing rights. What does it mean? Special drawing rights, it is not a claim on the IMF for a country. It is claim on the currencies which can be traded and transacted. What does it mean? Again I am telling you, if a country wants to pay the balance of payment transaction is happening in the form of rupees, the country X or Y which is on the other hand may not accept it, simple. But if country is going to do the transaction in the form of dollars or Japanese yen or Chinese renminbi, which is in the form of special drawing rights, therefore it is a potential claim on the freely usable currency, not on the IMF. It is not a claim on the IMF. Okay, it is a claim on the freely usable currency. That means I can use Chinese renminbi or Japanese yen or euro or pound sterling or US dollar, which can be used for the transaction purpose. This is a potential claim on the currencies recognized under this basket of special drawing rights under IMF. Okay. So, special drawing rights is not a claim on the IMF, it is a claim on the currency. That is why I have been reiterating the second statement. Here the second statement is absolutely wrong. This is not a claim on the IMF, this is claim on the potential currencies which are coming under this basket of special drawing rights. Next, the value of SDR is set annually. No, it is not set annually. It is set on daily basis. It is set on daily basis. So, option 3 is also incorrect. So, option 2 is incorrect, option 3 is incorrect, and option 4 is also incorrect, because the SDR is not held by the private entities. SDR is usually held by the member countries, that is a sovereign country. So, it is not held by the private countries. So, option 4 is also incorrect. So, second thing, you have to remember few things, that with the core concept that I have been telling you, the mandates of the IMF and mandates of the World Bank and mandates of the, already in the international relations we have asked regarding WTO and its objectives too. Coming to third question, these are the tasks I am giving you after each question, please remember. Next, third question is about New Development Bank. It was emerged out of Fortaleza agreement of BRICS countries. Okay, it is a challenge to Europe dominated or Western dominated IMF World Bank. Okay, it is a challenge to them. So, they want to develop these new development bank which is run by these third world countries or developing countries and led by China, India, Brazil, South Africa, right. So, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, not United Arab Emirates, not Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, United Arab Emirates and also Egypt recently joined this new development bank which is led by these developing countries. In Bangladesh has joined recently in 2021 and also United Arab Emirates in 2021 October. So, new development bank emerged after this Fortaleza agreement. In 2015 this agreement took place, in 2016 various questions came after that. In 2015 also UPSC has asked a question on Fortaleza agreement and 2016 UPSC CSC has asked this question, that is regarding new development bank which is led by our developing countries, BRICS countries simply. Okay. And 2015 also it was repeated regarding the mandates of the BRICS and its outcomes and objectives associated with it. Next thing is regards Asian Infrastructure and Investment Banks. You have to remember one thing, Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank is usually dominated by the China and Asian Development Bank which was established in 1969 and dominated by Japan and also USA. Japan and USA are the largest shareholders of the Asian Development Bank, but in Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank it is dominated by the China, in which India is also member. Okay. It enjoys permanent observer status in the United Nations General Assembly, Economic Social Council, but not UN Security Council. Therefore, first statement is incorrect. And apart from engaging in sovereign and non-sovereign backed financing, it undertakes direct equity investment in private and public sector companies. Yes, that is also true. What does it mean, equity investment? Any investment, that means the bank which has given a loan to the company may be the loan may be converted into equity investments based on the terms and conditions which is happened between these two entities, these two parties. So, the bank may take direct equity investment in private or public sector companies. It may invest either in new enterprise or an existing enterprise. The investment may take a variety of forms, subscription to ordinary shares or preference shares, and which can be converted into equity investments or loan convertible into equity. And bank's investment may not exceed 30%. Simply, the bank's investment should not exceed 30%. Therefore, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank may also invest in private entities and they can participate in the shareholder market, and that is equity investment market. Okay. And what is meant by sovereign backed financing and non-sovereign backed financing? Any loan which is taken by a company may be backed by the sovereign body, that is the payment, the interest payment and the loan repayment may be done from the exchequer of the respective government. That is called sovereign backed financing. If that interest payment and loan repayment is not done by the respective government or exchequer from the government, therefore, it is a private payment which is to be done by the company which has taken loan from other country. This is called non-sovereign backed financing. Very simple term. Whether it is paid back by the government or not, simple. If it is not paid by the government and it is only paid by the private company, it is called non-sovereign backed financing, simple. But the financing may be possible to the private companies or governments or other departments which are backed by the government or not backed by the government. This is done by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Next thing, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development is nothing but a world bank. It is emerged out of this Bretton Woods conference after Second World War in 1944. In 1944, Bretton Woods conference took place. Bretton Woods conference. After this Bretton Woods conference only, the GATT emerged, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, and also this World Bank, that is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, to reconstruct and develop the third world countries which were sufferers of these two world wars. Therefore, this IBRD emerged, and most probably not only the developing countries but also to assist the development activities of the least developed countries. IDA was formed. IDA, a new entity was formed, and out of these two entities, IBRD and IDA, World Bank, an organization came out. Okay. Organization. These are the organizations associated with Bretton Woods Conference after the Second World War. So, about IBRD, this was also one of the previous year questions regarding World Bank and its establishment in 1946, and you have to remember two things, that mandates of IMF, and this is also one of the tasks as I have given you regarding extended fund facility by the IMF, that is called the mandates of IMF, and the objectives of WTO and their establishment, and also mandates of World Bank and their establishment and their headquarters. Simple. These three things you have to remember, because these were asked several times in many state public service commission exams also. And this is also a 2008 CDS question we have taken directly. Next, sixth question regarding Asian Development Bank. Just now I have told you this is dominated by the Japan and America, and that is USA, and it is its headquarters is not located in Indonesia, in Philippines only. Therefore, third statement is correct, and China is not the largest shareholder. Japan and USA are the largest shareholders here. So, first statement is also wrong, and it provides both financial technical assistance to member countries to help achieve sustainable inclusive growth. This is very simple statement. Definitely they should have a positive objective. So, this is established in 1966. Second statement is the only right answer, and option C is the correct one. International Labour Organization Conventions 138, 182. Why we have asked only these conventions? Because it was asked previously in the UPSC Civil Service exam in 2018. Why this was in the news several times. 138 and 182. The convention under this International Labour Organization of 138 is dealing with minimum age of working, and Convention 182 of International Labour Organization is focusing on worst forms of child labor, okay. So, you have to remember these two things, that is the fundamental, this means under the ILO declaration, fundamental principles and right to work, and member states and obligation to respect, promote and realize this convention, okay. You have to remember these things. Next, with reference to free trade agreement, what are the tasks that I have given you till 7th question? You have to remember the mandates of IMF, World Bank and objectives of WTO and their headquarters. This is one thing, and also the extended fund facility of IMF and support systems emerged out of it, and gradual improvement and the evolution happening over the years. And also their rival groups that are called New Development Bank and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, these are very important, and our regional bank, that is Asian Development Bank, these are very important, and also Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, OECD, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation and OECD, these were also asked several times, in which India was not member or member. Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, this was asked in 2009 UPSC Civil Service examination, and later in 2017-18 also it was repeated. So, you have to remember in which Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation. Just I am giving you a brief introduction. China dissuaded India to enter into Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Therefore, India was unable to become member of this APEC. As we have witnessed, China stopped us to enter into nuclear supply group, right, NSC. So, Asia APEC is very essential to remember one thing, because China dissuaded India to enter into it, and also there was a very vague reason provided behind this, because India was not a group of this Asia and Pacific region. Therefore, India would not enter into Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. So, though despite India's interest to join it in 2018-19, it was in debate. Therefore, the question came again. Next, I have given you the task you have to remember, and regarding 8th question, free trade agreement, and I am giving you one more task. I am irrespective of my explanation and briefly about all these tasks, you have to read it more thoroughly, because these are potential questions. The question we have given you the themes, in the form of questions. You have to do it in 360 degrees reverse engineering. After completion of this question, you have to analyze it in 360 degrees. Regarding FTA, we have asked, that is free trade agreement. You have to remember other 4 agreements, that is preferential trade agreement, that is customs union agreement and economic union agreement. These agreements you have to remember. What is meant by this free trade agreement? There is a concessional tariff rate for a country which entered into this free trade agreement, that is zero customs duty may be possible in the internal trade of the countries, okay. This is free trade agreement. But in preferential trade agreement, concessional tariffs may be possible, but no zero tariff rate may be no zero tariff is allowed under this preferential trade agreement. Only certain goods which are preferred under this preferential trade agreement may be allowed to be traded in other countries at low tariff rates under this preferential trade agreement. Therefore, you have to know certain distinguishing elements between these agreements, that is PTA, FTA, economic union and also customs union, and the comprehensive agreements associated with various regional groupings. You have to remember all these mandates, okay. And what is this free trade agreement? they are arrangements between two or more countries that primarily agree to reduce customs tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers, what does it mean? Red tapeism and excessive checking, and there is a lot of obstacle and toll checks, right, and no automation and no of a radio frequency type of identification technology adaptations. So, manual interference, a lot of manual interventions, these things may take place which can act as non-tariff barriers. So, free trade agreement can provide to eliminate this kind of obstacle or hurdle or hindrance in the trade deals between these countries, that is called non-tariff barrier. So, next thing, an early harvest scheme is a precursor to free trade agreement between two trading partner. That is true only, because before entering into free trade agreement, an early harvest mechanism may take place between these two countries. Okay. So, here the question is about not correct. No one statement is incorrect here. Therefore, you have to choose both are correct statement. That means nothing is incorrect, neither one nor two. This is a free trade agreement between two or more countries, where countries agree on certain obligations that affect goods and services. Okay. It is a protection for the investors in the intellectual property too. IP intellectual property, that is the TRIPS, trade related intellectual property rights, is also part of the WTO trade negotiations, and TRIPS, trade related investment measures, is also part of WTO in deals, agreements, negotiations. So, you have to remember agreement on agriculture, you have to remember two things, agreement on agriculture, and TRIPS and TRIMS and other agreements associated with WTO, and GATT, general agreement on trade and tariff, and GATT's general agreement on trade and services. You have to remember all these things. That is the evolution of WTO, how it was emerged out of the Uruguay round of talks and Marrakesh round of talks. You have to remember these things. This is a task, another task that I have given you. Early harvest scheme is definitely a precursor to the free trade agreement. The second statement is also true between the two trading partners. It will help two trading countries to identify certain products for tariff liberalization and pending conclusion of FTA negotiation. Therefore, before going to FTA, this early harvest scheme will help the countries to eliminate other kinds of any tariff barriers. Okay, liberalized tariff system may be taken place this early harvest under this early harvest scheme. This is about one of the agreements, SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Agreement. These were the questions asked previously in the CDS also. With respect to tariffs, consider the following statement: domestic consumers. This is an intelligent analytical guess based question, right? Domestic consumers benefit from the imposition of tariff? No. Usually domestic sellers may benefit after the imposition of tariffs on imported goods, because the imported good is being taxed 100%. What will happen? There will be less import, and more demand for potential sellers in the economy, So, it is a burden on, if there is huge import tax on imported goods, it will act as a burden on consumers. Not on sellers. So, it will be a benefit to the sellers in the domestic market when there is huge tariff on imported goods. It is not a benefit to the consumers. Therefore, the first statement is incorrect. Second, coming to this one, the domestic demand for goods increase? No, when there is huge tariff on imported goods, the domestic demand for that good will fall down. Okay, since the price of good increases out of the higher tariff system on imported goods, its demand in the domestic market usually falls. Okay, so the second statement is also wrong. It will not increase; it usually decreases. Okay, so neither one nor two is the right answer. Coming to 10th question regarding aggregate measure of support, as I have discussed about agreement on agriculture under these trade negotiations of WTO. Okay, under WTO you have different boxes, that is amber box and blue box. You have blue box, you have green box, and you have red box. Okay, and this is also one of the tasks I have given you. You have to remember, though despite my brief explanation about these basic things, basic elements in this subject. So, simply amber box, blue box, what does it mean? These are basket of goods under this box, the basket of goods under this box, which can have certain leverage to be traded with subsidy in those domestic markets. In those domestic markets, what does it mean? If certain goods are coming under this green box, if certain goods are coming under this green box, they will not face any kind of restriction to get subsidized, to get at a rate of subsidy, okay, to get at subsidized prices. These green box subsidies, green box means the goods which are coming under this basket of goods will not face any kind of restrictions under the WTO terms and conditions. With respect to red box, these are trade distorting goods, trade distorting goods. When the trade is distorted out of this good coming under the subsidized price, therefore, the good will not be entered into the world market. This is a condition put forth by the IMF, by the World Trade Organization, right, World Trade Organization. So, these are the restrictions imposed on these goods which should not be subsidized by the domestic countries, domestic market to enter into the world market. So, this is called and I am giving you de minimis rules also. De minimis means what? Suppose in a developed country you can give agriculture subsidy up to 5% in a developed country with respect to developed country. With respect to developing country, I am talking with respect to developing country, you can give 10% subsidy, you can give up to 10% subsidy for agriculture production. This is called de minimis level, that is why the third statement they have given you de minimis level. So, only members with aggregate measure support commitment in their schedules of commitment can provide aggregate measure support beyond their de minimis level of this commitment. This is a question asked in the previous year in CDS 2012. So, you have to remember these boxes, and before coming to that I will give you a brief explanation about this aggregate measure of support. This is also task given to you, you have to read irrespective of your reading. I am giving you brief explanation. These are when the goods are distorting the trade, therefore, the aggregate measure of support may have certain conditions. Under these conditions only, the government should provide subsidies to the goods under the conditions provided by the WTO. Okay. Trade distorting aggregate measure support, trade distorting aggregate measure support has two components. One is non-product specific and the second one is product specific support. What does it mean? If few goods that means few products are coming under this aggregate measure of support, those goods should be provided, those goods should be given certain limitation, those goods should be given and certain conditions. Means only these products should have aggregate measure of support, that is product specific. Non-product specific is based on the market needs and requirements. Suppose in the product specific aggregate measure of support is calculated for each basic agriculture product, and it will cover only the support measures at market price level, at market price. With respect to non-product specific, it is not with respect to a specific product, it is not with respect to specific product, it is a non-product specific. So, non-product specific support is support provided in favor of agriculture producers, not at the consumer level, in the market level, market price. Okay. It is to support the producers to manufacture at low cost, to support them to compete in the fair market. Okay. But it should not lead to unfair trade practice out of the over support and compared to other countries. So, this is aggregate measure of support. This aggregate measure of support in which the members, the only members with an aggregate measure of support commitment in their schedules of commitment. What are these schedules? These are schedules given under the WTO only. Under this WTO, they have given a clause that is aggregate measure support. Under this clause only, there is a schedule in which certain countries are committed. Only those countries which had got this kind of facilitation under this aggregate measure of support by the WTO can avail these opportunities of giving subsidies to the non-product specific and product specific, right. This is called. So, and the countries which became members, which came under this aggregate measure of support, can give can give more than 10% of subsidy, that is de minimis for the with respect to developing countries. With respect to developed countries, they should not be beyond, there should not be beyond 5% actually, but when it is coming under aggregate measure of support, they can give subsidy more than that of the de minimis, that is more than that of the 10% with respect to developing countries, 5% with respect to developed countries. Okay. This is UPSC CSC 1996 question, and based on the various WTO organization negotiations and UPSC CDS 2014 question and their conditions, deals, negotiations, rules. These are the questions which I have displayed here. You please have to go through them once again. Go through them. I have given you various tasks, the mandates of WTO, IMF and also World Bank, and their objectives, their evolution and their rival groups like Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and world groups, that is Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation and OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and Asian Development Bank, New Development Bank. These are very important. And also coming to this one, that is IMF under these IMF mandates, there are certain restrictions to stop this, to prevent this trade distortion. Restrictions are imposed under certain basket of goods. Okay, the clauses given under basket of goods and agreements on agriculture, aggregate measure of support clauses, and blue box, amber box, de minimis, green box, red box. These things. Okay, these are very important for this day. Next, which among the following are responsible for coming to this fourth slot questions? Coming to fourth slot questions, Food Corporation of India FCA under public distribution system. This is a question, interesting question in 2019 and inspired by this one only. This is a procurement of food grains is the responsibility of Food Corporation of India under this public distribution system, and transportation bulk allocation of these food grains to the state government and storage of food grains. This is fine. Therefore, with respect to this 2019 question, which one should be the right answer? Procurements, incidentals and distribution costs are incurred on Food Corporation of India, Food Corporation of India, that is procurement incidentals and distribution costs. These two are incurred on Food Corporation of India under this minimum support price and bonus. Okay, and after paying MSP and additional bonus, the additional costs incurred on Food Corporation of India is procurement incidentals and distribution costs. Okay, this is a question, procurement, transportation of bulk goods and storage of food grains. This is actually bared by whom? Food Corporation of India. But supervision of fair price shops and issuing of ration cards is in the hands of the state government, respective state governments. So, it is not the mandate given to the FCA. So, only 1, 2 and 3 are the right here, and C option is right with respect to 11th question. So, public distribution system, it is management of scarcity through distribution of food grains at affordable prices. Okay. This is, I think you all have known about the public distribution system chain of distribution. Next, with Antyodaya Anna Yojana, this is targeted delivery system. This is a targeted delivery system under this PDS, targeted public distribution system. Okay, and this was asked under PDS in 2002 in IES UPSC and recently in UPSC previous year question. What is coming under this Antyodaya Anna Yojana? Here it has been launched in order to make targeted public distribution more focused towards the poor. That is true, poorest of the poor, most poor people. Next, under this scheme, the entire food subsidy was passed on to the consumer. Entire food subsidy should always be, what does it mean? Entire food subsidy, it is coming to the direct question here. This is the national sample survey exercise point towards the fact that about 5% of total population in the country sleeps without 2 square meals a day. 2 square meals a day. Therefore, this target public distribution system focusing excessively on the category of the people who are coming under this poorest of the poor segment, that is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. This is fine. Therefore, identification of 1 crore poorest of the poor families is one of the biggest tasks under these BPL families. So, they should be covered within this TBDS, target public distribution system, and the price of this subsidized rate, that means the price of the wheat at a subsidized price, that is at the rate of 2 rupees per kg and 3 rupees per kg for the rice. So, the states and union territories were to bear the cost with respect to dealers and retailers as well as the transportation cost. Therefore, thus the entire food subsidy was passed on to the consumers under the scheme. Why we have to choose that fourth option? I have given you this explanation because the poorest of the poor should get benefited out of it, and which the consumer should bear some cost to deal with this issue. So, the state government should also take part in this in dealing with this kind of menace in our country. That is, so only people who are unable to eat at least two meals a day, unable to meet 2 meals a day, you have to find out them, you have to provide them certain amenities in which all stakeholders should take place, and they have to make these targeted people come out of this Antyodaya situation. That means poorest of the poor to at least from above marginal level. Okay, that is the condition. That is the situation in which every stakeholder should take part in it. Therefore, the fourth statement is given right here. Okay, I think other statements are very easy to get, very easy, because 2 rupees per kg of wheat and 3 rupees per kg of rice. It was previously asked in other state service commission examination. I haven't remembered the commission, but they have asked the wheat price is less than that, wheat price is more than that of the rice. This was a question which was given in the incorrect statements. Okay. So, you have to remember these micro level inputs. Next thing, 13th question with regard to minimum price, minimum support price. Minimum support price, it is fixed by the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. No, it is not fixed by the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. It actually recommends the Cabinet Committee on Academic Affairs. So, it is not by them. Second, a major objective is to support farmers from distress. This is true only. So, which one among the following is not correct regarding determining the MSP? That cost of living index is not considered under this MSP. MSP, while determining the MSP, Commission on Agriculture Costs and Price consider cost of production, price trends in international and domestic markets, and intercrop price parity. So, these elements are considered under this Commission on Agriculture Costs and Prices to determine the MSP. So, with respect to this MSP is a form of market intervention by the government to ensure agriculture producers against any sharp fall in the farm prices. The minimum support prices are announced by the Government of India at the beginning of sowing season. Remember one thing, at the beginning of sowing season, not at the time of harvesting season, at the beginning of sowing season, the Government of India determines the minimum support price. On the basis of recommendation, and one more thing you have to remember, Commission on Agriculture Costs and Prices, on the basis of recommendation of Commission on Agriculture Costs and Prices. MSP is a price fixed by the Government of India to protect the producers, farmers against excessive fall in price during the bumper production years, to protect the farmers at the time of excessive production years, okay, due to sudden sharp fall of the prices. Next, second statement, minimum support price are a guarantee price for their production that is produced from the farmers and also to be protected by the Government of India. The major objective is to support the farmers from the distress sales and to procure food grains for the public distribution purpose. And in case market price for commodity falls below the announced minimum price due to bumper production, the glut in the market and government agencies purchase entire quantity offered by the farmers at the announced minimum support price. This is the question, this is a simple explanation you have to remember. Second thing, minimum support price covers certain crops, 14 crops of Kharif and 6 crops of Rabi and 2 crops of dehusked coconut and Toria. These are the 22 crops. These are mandated crops which are protected under this MSP mechanism, that is minimum support price. So, only 22 crops are covered under minimum support price. Out of these 22 crops, the cereals are only 7 in number and pulses are only 5 in number. In the cereals, you have paddy, wheat, barley, jowar, bajra, maize, ragi. You have to remember these crops because it was asked in the UPSC in the previous year in 2018, you have to remember this. soya bean, raw cotton, tobacco, maize, not completely tobacco one, my dear friends, you have to remember this is also important, but if they have given you specific all kinds of tobacco, it is fine, you can choose this one at this moment, but if they have given you all kinds of tobacco are covered under MSP, this is a wrong statement, okay. But tobacco is also covered, this is also very important. Tobacco of Virginia fluctude, which is a local made one, it is a kind of leaf which is a roll to make it a tobacco product. So, Virginia fluctude tobacco, dehusked coconut and sugar cane fair and remunerative price. Under this fair and remunerative price mechanism, sugar cane is also coming under this MSP price system, okay. So, paddy, wheat, bajra, maize, ragi, jowar and barley, these 7 crops or cereal crops are coming under MSP. 22 mandated crops, Toria and dehusked coconut are also part of it. 14 crops are kharif crops and 6 crops are rabi crops. Out of these 14 crops of kharif crops, you know paddy, jowar, bajra, maize, ragi, fine. And with respect to pulses, gram, arahar dal or tur dal or moong dal, urad dal, lentils, these are part of the MSP. And oil seeds, groundnut, rapeseed or mustard, Toria, soya bean, sunflower seed, sesamum, safflower and niger seed. These are also part of the MSP. Raw jute and cotton, these are also very important. Raw jute, cotton and copra, these are also part of MSP. Government is giving minimum support price before sowing season, okay, before sowing only. This is very important, not at the time of harvest. Which among the following are the essential features of producer organization in India? They are formed by group of producer for either farm or non-farm activities. It is a registered body and a legal entity. It deals with the business activities related to primary produce. Producers are shareholders in the organization. What is mean by producer organization in India? Under the statutory mandate, there are certain features provided to these producer organizations. All are features under these producer organization. What are the features here? It is formed by a group of producers for either farm or non-farm activities, and it is a registered body and a legal entity. Producers and shareholders in the organizations. It deals with the business activities related to primary produce or product. It works for the benefit of member producers. A part of profit is shared among the producers. This is regarding producer organization. Producer organization, a statutory feature provided under this producer organization. It is not legally backed up, but what are the certain features provided to the producer organizations? In the producer organization, it should be a registered body and should have a legal backup, and shareholders should be the producers in that organization. It deals with business activities related to that primary produce and production. It works for the benefit of the member producers. Okay. This is a basic thing under this producer organization. Consider the following statement with regard to World Trade Organization. I have told you already to know the objectives and the mandates of IMF, World Bank and World Trade Organization. Here one more thing, who recognizes the least developed countries and developing countries? Developing countries, they themselves declare we are developing countries. It is not determined by the World Trade Organization, but least developed countries is actually determined by the United Nations, and it is considered by the WTO. WTO considers these are the least developed countries recognized by the United Nations, therefore, they will get a concessional trade benefit out of this. Okay. So, WTO considers only the least developed countries recognized by the United Nations, but developing countries, with respect to developing countries, there is no certain definition. These developing countries in the WTO are designated on the basis of self-selection. The countries, they themselves select they are developing countries. They will declare themselves they are developing countries, and it is not necessarily automatically accepted by all WTO members. All WTO members may argue against the China as a developing country. Suppose this is a simple hypothetical example. Next, World Trade Organization recognizes least developed countries based on the recognition of UN list, United Nations Organization. So, first statement is incorrect and second statement is also incorrect. So, neither one and nor one are is the right answer. Okay. With respect to agencies that formulate the FDI policy in our country, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion under Ministry of Commerce is the agency to deal with the FDI policy in our country. That is, Government of India through Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion formulates a consolidated and also the process of FDI on every year, yearly basis, every year. So, this is a defined framework of FDI policy. Most recently, reforms were made for FDI policy in 2019. Reforms were made regarding this FDI policy by the Ministry of Commerce under the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Okay. Foreign investors can invest directly in India either on their own or through joint ventures in virtually all sectors except in very small list of activities in which foreign investors are prohibited. These restrictions are imposed and provided by this organization, this department, that is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Okay. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, already I have told you in the UPSC civil service examination, they have asked several times, that is Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation or Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in which both of these organizations India was not a member, and Asian Development Bank India was a member, and also Colombo Plan India was a member in 2018 based question. Therefore, it is an intergovernmental organization, that is true, that is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The main aim of this OECD is to stimulate global economic progress, global economic progress, and this is an official UN observer. That is true only because even AIIB, which is a recent organization compared to OECD, has got this option. So, India is not an official member, but adheres to several OECD legal instruments. That is true. India is following certain legal instruments provided by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, but India is not official member of this OECD. Okay. This is a the main objective is to build better policies for better lives, and goal is to shape policies that will foster the prosperity and development, equality, opportunity, well-being for all. This is the mandate. It is a 60 years organization, 60 years old organization. These are the things that we have to remember. All three statements are correct for the 18th question. Coming to 19th question, again regarding special drawing rights allocation by the IMF. They are loan from the IMF. No, this is not a loan from the IMF, because this is a potential claim of currencies, claim on currencies in which the transactions can take place. Okay. This is not a claim on the IMF, this is not in the form of loans also. When the IMF allocates SDRs, participants in the SDR department receive unconditional liquidity represented by interbearing reserve asset wholly, and also corresponding long term liability to the SDR department allocation. And this is very simple. This is a potential security provided to a country to deal with balance of payment crisis by using these special drawing rights. Okay. If a country is suffering from lack of dollars, it can use renminbis or yen, Japanese yen, likewise. So, it is not a loan provided by the IMF, it is a leverage provided by the IMF to use these potent currencies which can be transacted in the global market for trade purpose, simple, or to deal with the BOP issues, BOP, balance of payment issues. Their allocation and usage are cost free? No, their allocation and usage is not at all a cost free one. Okay. SDR allocation is cost free, uses are their allocation and usage are cost free. No, the use of SDR occurs when a country reduces its SDR holding. Okay. SDR allocation with respect to the country, with respect, it is not, SDR is not a cost free. The use of SDRs occur when a country reduces its SDR holdings. SDR holding, reduction of SDR holdings means, suppose a country may have country may have 90% of reserves, 90% of reserves at IMF, 90% of its reserves at IMF in the form of gold, and 5% in the form of SDR, 5% in the form of SDR, other 5% in the form of other mechanisms provided by IMF, just forget about that. If the country wants to reduce its holdings in the form of SDR to 2%, if the country wants to reduce its holdings in the form of special drawing rights up to 2% from 5%, this is a reduction, that is SDR occurs when a country reduces its SDR holdings along with its cumulative SDR allocation. Okay. the countries therefore that exchange their SDR, they will when they are trying to exchange their SDR in the form of currency or as in the case of currency. So, it will incur net charges and differences between their cumulative SDR allocation and their SDR holdings, simple. Therefore, if country X wants to trade in the form of SDRs or to settle payments in the form of SDR, settle payments to some country in the form of SDR, but allocated SDR to that country is 5%, but it has reduced up to 2%. The extra 3% gap may be used, but it is charged. It is not a cost free, it is not a cost free one. Otherwise, the 2% which is used to deal with this balance of payment to other country, 2% may be also charged. This is not cost free to deal with. Okay, this should have certain cost to settle the balance of payments to countries X or Y, right. So, this is the around 0.05%, the rate may be in the form of 0.05% with respect to SDR interest rate. Next, consider the following statement with regard to New Development Bank, because SDR is also a holding of the government respective members of the IMF. It is not IMF owned amount which is given in the form of loan. It is not IMF owned amount. SDR is a holding of a country which can be claimed, rather than claiming in the form of currency, they can claim in the form of SDRs. Simple. The basket of currencies in the SDRs are yen, renminbi, euro, pound sterling and dollars. Consider the following statements with regard to New Development Bank. All NDB approved loans are denominated in the US dollars. No, all NDB approved loans are not at all denominated, because it is a US rival, US dominated and West dominated one should be challenged under this New Development Bank. They have proposed loans denominated in the EUR, CNY and JAR, CHF, and NDB's America's regional office at Sao Paulo, with a sub office in the Brasilia was established within the Brazil region. Next, agreement for establishing NDB was signed during the 6th BRICS summit. Already I have told you in the first question itself. After the Fortaleza agreement, there were many questions asked from it. Okay, I think this session would have helped you. All the best and thank you so much.